Hello and welcome to the Posture Dojo podcast. My name is Sam Miller. I'm sharing my own journey healing a 85-degree kyphoscoliosis and how I'm helping other people discover their innate healing and aligning ability through the power of breath, movement, physical exercise. And I'm speaking with experts from various fields who are on the same mission to help people build and rebuild their best postures. Today, I'm excited to have David Butler from Align Therapy in Utah. I'm looking forward to our conversation. He has a breadth of experience in a lot of the fields that I'm very interested in, from the Schroth method to physical therapy, combining breath and movement in regards to aligning our best posture. David, welcome to the podcast. Tell us kind of your background and how you got to where you are today.
David Butler, I'm a physical therapist. I have been practicing physical therapy since 2007, and I kind of got sick of the corporate world of physical therapy in 2015 and decided to open my own practice. And I thought scoliosis and spine deformities would be a kind of a fun side gig, and it turned out to be more than a side gig. And I've been doing scoliosis and spinal deformity and posture and all things related to that since 2015. So that's kind of my background. I really have a passion for treating those with spine problems and specifically spinal deformities. And I've been kind of surprised actually how deep I've gone into that. I never thought I would have gone that deep into the spine. Um,
And
yeah.
all right, so for someone who has a compromise in their posture, uh, the more they know, the better. The more they can understand how their body works and how they can tap into their ability to breathe and move and release tension and build strength is going to help them. Um, they don't necessarily need to know all of the anatomical information and scientific information, but it would help. How do you approach this? Because it's very related to that discipline that we were talking about. Not only does it require discipline and consistency in doing this type of breathing and movement and restructuring, it requires this kind of understanding of these concepts in certain ways. So how do you approach that with people who might not be formally or medically trained?
I think that's a great question because sometimes I'm dealing with 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds that if I talk about diaphragm, they have no idea what I'm talking about. And so I think the biggest thing is learning how to not describe it as much as show them and give them feedback manually. I mean, we using our hands to teach them is the biggest thing. I mean, that's how kids learn anyway. They learn through tactile feedback and visual feedback. And so the more we can use that, I pretty rarely will actually go into the anatomy of Schroth. It's pretty in adults I will a little bit more in that, but really it's about them feeling it and how you're talking about connecting your brain to your body, learning, teaching them how to connect that. And when they actually do expand really well or they get good control of their exhalation or something like that, really cueing them and verbally cueing them that that was what we were looking for and getting that again. And
Hmm.
I think that's the key. So educating them on the natural process of scoliosis, yeah, I'll talk to them about that. But as far as educating them on what we're doing in treatment, it's hands-on, and that's why it's really hard to do through virtual things. I mean, I've had people, and I tried it over COVID. I tried doing some Schroth with people remotely and things like that. Sometimes it works okay, sometimes it doesn't. With teenagers, it just didn't. It needs to be in person and it needs to be hands-on. There's no substitute for actually being able to show and touch and help cue those motions. So
Yeah, and that's backed scientifically. There was Dr. Lauren Fishburne who developed the flying side plank and the side planks as a way to correct scoliosis, and then his in-person patients got better results than his out-person patients. It's having someone there keeping you accountable, guiding you. You're going to get more results. And yes, the biggest challenge that I face on my online Posture Dojo is compliance, getting people to do the work. Because there are these postures, there are ways to breathe, there are ways to move, there are ways to build strength that will develop your posture. But you have to do them. And so it requires discipline, consistency. What else? What are these big values? What are these big things that people need to understand if they want to go on this postural transformation journey?
So a study that came out, I think it was last year or the year before, it looked at adults and scoliosis treatment specifically with the Schroth method, and it was looking at what helped them have success. And they found that success was doing the exercises consistently. I was like, okay, well that makes sense. Consistency definitely helps. But they looked at what was the highest predictor of if they did them consistently. And the highest predictor of that was if they understood the exercises, if they understood what they were supposed to do. And it makes sense. If you don't understand an exercise, it's highly unlikely that you're going to continue it because you don't feel like you're doing it correctly. And so if someone's looking at going on this journey with postural correction and scoliosis, or spinal deformities, or just posture in general, I think they have to be committed to really understanding what they're doing, not at a physiological level, but understanding and putting in the time to really do them well. Just like any exercise routine. Any exercise routine, let's say squats and deadlifts, putting in the time to really figure out your form. And if you're doing them correctly, you get so much more out of it. And the more you understand it, the better the results are with it. So I think that's a desire to really understand it and really be consistent in that I think is huge and key before you even start to delve into it. Because if you learn something and you're not going to be consistent or really dive deeper into it, I mean, what's the point if it's just going to be a flash in the pan?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm a big promoter of helping people understand that their wellness is ultimately their greatest purpose. No matter what other purpose you're telling yourself to go out and help and serve in the world, if you're not well, you're not going to be able to do that as effectively. And so I'm a big promoter of helping people understand that the greatest thing I want for them and that the thing that they can do for the world is to be well and to share that wellness from that place. So making it a priority to be well is a big piece in that, and it's certainly something that that I make a priority in my days. Like before I do anything, I'm getting right, I'm breathing right, and moving right, and
So
it's
I
a
totally agree with
long-term
that.
game.
Yeah, and I think most of the time, especially as a physical therapist, people don't necessarily want to come see me. That it's not like, oh, well, they do hopefully once they get to know me and once they see some of the results. But initially, it's kind of like, I don't want to go see a PT, or I don't want to do something about this until it's affecting their life and until it's affecting that wellness you're talking about, or their ability to interact with other people. And so if we can proactively, like we talked about before, that desire and that discipline, how do we get more of that before we really need it? Before we really, it's that we can't pick up our kids or our grandkids anymore because our back hurts. How do we address that before it gets to that point when we're having some of those warning signals or we notice some things? Uh, that's that's a tough one. That's a
It
hard one.
is. It is, and I don't know if I've cracked that one yet because my
Yeah.
real healing journey started when I was on the edge. I had been, my body was crying out for attention and starting to shut down. They say a man has two lives, and his second one begins when he realizes he only has one. right? And so
Yeah.
that's obviously a great trigger, but we want to identify what are these triggers earlier on. So that's a
Yeah.
great one. And often it's the parent who understands this consequences, and as you said, they're there with their child on this journey, and so that's often a big piece of it. But
Yeah.
thank you very much for this conversation. I think it's really brought up a lot of it helps round out a lot of ideas that I'm working with, and kind of seeing how you're doing it on your path is inspiring as well. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing for people, and it is primarily in person, but you will have some online stuff coming on. So tell us about how they can find you in Utah.
So in Utah, you can go to our website, aligntherapyutah.com. I'm fine with anybody emailing me. My email address is david@aligntherapyutah.com. I have a podcast called The Scoliosis Experience. If you want to listen to that, we have a lot of videos on YouTube that describe a lot of things that we do. And so you can look up Align Therapy Utah online as well. And really, we're just trying to do the best we can to really help people with postural deformities, or I have patients all the time that come in just looking for help with their posture. I think posture is such a huge component in even our orthopedic injuries that we see a lot of times. So you can reach out, and in the future, I'm hoping to have some things that people can do online that maybe don't require as much hands-on stuff. But I mean, if you want the best results, in person definitely trumps online. So
And that's most likely that 3 month type program, right?
yeah, if someone's coming from a distance, so I've had patients come from states around Utah. I've even had people come from further than that. But with those, we'll do kind of an intensive program that takes about a week, where we're going like 3 hours a day for 5 or 6 days, just to teach them how to do it,
Nice.
and then we can follow up online. I mean, once they learn that base, then we can do more follow up that way. But initially learning, it's just better in person. So that's something that we've done, but we're trying to figure out how to reach more people because it's a huge need. We see it all the time. Like I get questions from people in India and Pakistan and all over the place. And so we need more resources like what you're doing, Sam. I think it's fantastic. And the more we can do with that, with things that actually work and are effective, I'm all game for that.
Appreciate it. Yep. I think the more people who are familiar with these techniques that we've been talking about, the better. Empowering people at a very young age to start taking seriously and prioritizing the journey ahead. So
Ah,
really appreciate
perfect.
it. Thanks
Love
for
it.
your conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Cheers.